Greetings, and you all some warm, positive vibrations. So, up early, the early day is to me the best part of the day because it is so quiet. You can hear your own onboard divine intelligence. So, this early day, I was just contemplating as information was passing across the timeline, looking to do research on nutrition and other things come across the timeline. As I contemplate current events, I consider, and this is like, I don't, and let me just say, I don't know everything. I'm aware enough to know that I'm going to be a forever student. Yet, I've become very well aware that, and humbled by the fact that, as a species, we go along with a lot of groupthink. And this is not to make us bad or wrong. Yet, we are accountable for our own lives. And only us in our quiet moments, not on social media, only you and I in our quiet moments can assess and be honest and cultivate our own discernment. In this climate, and I've been saying this for a long time, we don't realize how much we are signing on to and how we are contributing to the environment where, one, we're seeing the amount of violence, the amount of violating of not only male to male, male to female. A lot of this we're co-signing on and supporting with our dollars. For example, and I've said this for years, the violent video games. I remember when Game Boy and all these games first came out years ago, the little small handheld video games. And I remember one popular rap star that for Christmas was coming to the hood to gift a lot of these video games. And call me super simple. I remember thinking years ago, almost 3 decades ago, okay, I get the video games, but why not teach these young people, bring them into your studio and show them how to create a video game? Why not? I remember there used to be something called Take Your Children to Work, or why not show them how to run a business rather than appease them with a $50, $60, which was a lot back then, video game? How would that further uh, cultivate their attention and they're giving them skills rather, similar to placating children with candy? Many of us don't want to hear this, and I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do, especially someone that is not paying me, because that's another principle that I have learned over the years. Folks with another set of results or desirable results, usually they will invest in coaches and they will invest in truthful feedback because they know the value of having someone to tell them uncomfortable truths, someone giving them objective, logical, critical critiques and assessments. They know the value. They're willing to pay for that. Folks that are successful in some rights, right? Especially when it comes to getting financial results, even in fitness. Even athletes, most folks that are extremely successful pay for coaches. They invest for coaches and numerous coaches, not necessarily because they don't have any results. It's usually because they're looking, desiring, and committed to achieving another level of results, of performance, financial results, fitness results. This is common. I've seen it in corporate settings, in fitness. I work with all different types of demographics. And I remember doing health and fitness fairs. It was interesting. The first group of people to come in to the health fair was usually the higher ups and the corporate CEOs. And interesting, at 5 o'clock in the morning, usually those folks were in and out with their coaches and their trainers. It was just very matter of fact. This is not my forte. You tell me what to do. I'm in your arena. This is your realm. This is what I'm paying you for, paying quite a bit of an investment. Tell me what to do because I need excellence. I want to stay alive for, my wife, my children. I want to spend all my money. I want to make sure my arteries are clear. These folks had an awareness of the long-term cost and have the principle of investment. When you're investing your time, your energy, your resources, investment, meaning principle, you should be able to get back more than you're putting in. That's what an investment is. As someone who loves to garden and is fascinated and humbled by the garden, when I'm putting a seed in and my cute nails, they get broken inside the garden, a lot of dirt, mess up a lot of outfits. I know that the one seed, which is so amazing, which is why I really encourage folks to start a garden, no matter how small, the one seed can turn into a whole tree bearing fruit. That is such an amazing process. And it's one of the reasons why I really encourage folks start a garden. It activates your onboard common sense, critical thinking, decision making in a way that I think can shorten your learning curve. That is undeniable. That's not open necessarily to so much interpretation from different people and manipulators. The wonder, the magic, just the science, the cycles of life and nurturing a plant, one basil seed to give you a whole basil plant of something to eat that's delicious. It can really shift your paradigm. So between the video games and the culture of shows of housewives, of this group or that group, if we just step back objectively, right? It's like a sport. It's a sport. I'm not going to make it bad or wrong because I think we can shortcut ourselves by thinking bad or wrong or pointing a finger at others. Again, because in your quiet moments, only you can assess and only you can make a decision to take the energy that you are spending and investing and take the energy and your investment and position that energy investment somewhere else that is going to give you something back substantial for your time. So this climate of watching all of this fighting of girlfriends and friends, you know, with all of, you know, the the makeup in the palace, and I'm not anti-makeup. I'm not anti what somebody else is choosing to do with their body. I actually have a Jerry curl and a gold tooth. I can appreciate beauty. I'm a woman. I like flowers. I like lace, and I like all of that stuff. Though, if we look at and observe the tone and the feel of the interactions, it's a bunch of clicks and fighting, and it's become cute. The cattiness, as it's been called for years, the fighting and the clicks, it's become normalized, and it's a sport where folks choose their favorite characters and watch season after season. See, I think something that we may not be really, that we're not really grasping, or that something is not clicking, is that the internet, this is not free, right? Your time on here. And I don't know anything, but I figured out a few simple principles, right? To just assist myself because I'm not immune to these things. I just know how much these different things we're watching and the things you're engaging with online, how hypnotic they can be, you know? It's absolutely, I'm crystal clear that watching these things online, it's hypnotic. It's hypnosis. And if you look up the definition of hypnosis, the definition is to be entranced. So I figured out, I'm an observer of patterns. I figured out at a young age, I'm a soul music lover. And I figured out that listening to a lot of the music it will have you wanting to open up, we used to call a little black book, open up your phone book and wanting to engage with people that you probably have no business engaging. So it's really it's really something to admit that we are deeply affected by what we are listening to, that literally we're programming ourselves, that we are allowing ourselves to become desensitized by what we're listening to, um, what we are eating, and what we are supporting with our money. I think that's the simplest way to put it, to acknowledge that and to take an assessment of how we've been affected by what we've been listening to, by the things that have been passed down to us. Some of them cultural, some of them not beneficial, some of the behaviors and patterns toxic, and somewhere in there, some things that, in terms of culturally, that will be beneficial for us to preserve. So we need a vetting, or it would benefit us. I don't like to tell folks what to do, to have a vetting process for what we are allowing ourselves to be exposed to, not so much in the context of being religious, but just acknowledging as a human with a brain that's like a computer that memorizes everything, that processes trauma and things that make us fearful, that reacts and processes that information a certain way, and understanding that my subconscious mind is going to have a response to things that are toxic and fearful. So we're seeing a lot of these behaviors being played out that we've been ingesting for a long time. So rather than pointing the finger at the government or at churches or our other fellow human beings, only we can choose to abstain from what is not serving us in the long term. We can be upset at other people, yet our life is our responsibility. And it is obvious, it has long been obvious that the normalization of. I remember back in the day when G Theft Auto came out, that video game, and when I first saw a little clip or somebody was talking about it, I was like, this is horrible. It's like a cartoon. It makes play of often people robbing, stealing. The characters very stereotypical, and I remember it was very popular amongst chocolate folks, but then chocolate vanilla, then it got kind of meshed and marketed in with with rap music. you know why are we so, and someone could let me know in the comments, I don't have the only perspective, why are we so resistant to acknowledge a lot of the toxic behaviors? Why are we so resistant to look at the long term, uh, the possible results that we've seen to bear fruit? How all of these toxic behaviors in the music, which is programmed, which is a form of, it's real simple, of hypnotism and trance, right? It's relaxing in one sense. It triggers us to move a certain way. It triggers certain behaviors. It triggers lust in a way that's not in the context of responsibility. Why are as humans we're so resistant, right, to look at the long term effects? Well, one reason because it's hypnotic. It's not given to us in a whole context, and ultimately, it's our responsibility to filter through what is being presented for us. It's our responsibility how we're choosing to use the internet. Ascribing to a victim narrative, it's not empowering. It doesn't get us into the mode. It doesn't inspire us to get into action around what we say is important to us. And it's really something to pull yourself away and remove yourself out of harm's way, to remove your mind, your reproductive organs, our propensity to mimic and repeat others, right? There's something that's obvious with our programming. We watch other people dance and sing and we mimic. Look at TikTok. We mimic, we copy. We are also programmed, although we have the ability to have degrees and all this other stuff. If we look at our emotional uh, intelligence, we're not showing intelligence. This is not what we're demonstrating, just one person's perspective. When you look at the amount of violence that's perpetuated on children, the climate we're in, which is absolutely astounding, how much adult values and is being put on children who haven't even, their bodies are not fully developed and can't enact, and likely don't have the discernment to enact the responsibility that goes with exercising your reproductive organs intimately, if we can put it that way. So I don't know everything, but I figured out many years ago that I am not in a position, I don't have it to wait for the school across the street for me to change, right? And to enact healthy food. That's my responsibility, to be proactive in the change that I need and the therapeutic practices that I need. I cannot wait for someone to pass out free therapy, yoga mats, and yoga classes to me. I just can't. So what that's going to mean is for us to, I hear all this level up, which is usually, it seems like it ends mostly at, for women, our makeup and our hairstyles and our clothing. And what I've observed, with the males, them being encouraged to get a cut, or, a nice beard, smell good, hygiene, maybe work out and have a suit. We're not really delving into health, like really a commitment, a personal commitment to our health, which we usually think is a whole bunch of pills when there's so much abstinence. Abstinence is not, it goes untapped. I think abstinence is the bomb, which is really the principle of removing yourself from harm's way, not making your reproductive organs, your attention, your ability to be programmed and triggered, not making it available to everyone and everybody. The lack of immaturity, the lack of impulse control that is demonstrated by males and females, that it's absolutely astounding. The lack of common sense or lack of boundaries, right? Folks thinking, acting like they know you or are upset if they can't communicate with, this is like a very limited communication online with strangers. The air of entitlement to come into people's personal boundaries, personal space, into young people's boundaries. It's absolutely astounding. So it's not likely that this trajectory will change because the dullness now of our minds, the thinking and reasoning process is severely limited, tampered with. The thinking and reasoning process, which you can watch, you can observe within yourself and other people by the way we make decisions, by what we expose ourselves to. When somebody is putting themselves in harm's way, that tells you a lot about their thinking and reasoning. So it's that thinking and reasoning usually is going to show up across the board. So for us, rather than talking about everybody else, litmus test, especially for my young flowers and folks out there, are you putting yourself in harm's way? See how simple that is? That's not reliant on religion, occults or astrology, no this to astrology. But we keep looking for more escapism and more rhetoric. We're volunteering for the rhetoric and it's not landing, it's not producing the results. I, for one, I could never rely on just astrology or more book intellectual knowledge over my common sense, or ignoring what I'm seeing and not allowing a long and a thorough vetting process before you give access to your purse, your psyche, or your panty. It's just not panning out. At what point, as we as women and as mothers, will we really get it that who you open your body to, this is for men folks too. It's one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. We're being encouraged to use and to give access to what can cause tremendous damage indiscriminately. And then we brag about our ignorance. It's like, wow, we gloat in being ignorant. We gloat in putting all kinds of time. It's a principle. It's a mentality. We glorify gluttony. Look at the snack industry. This is not hard, but it's very hypnotic. It's very trance-like. So I am smart enough to assess that I don't know everything, and I'm humbled by how easy it is for us to be programmed as a species of beings, whatever your packaging is. Just look at the results. And a lot of the damage that we will do in lack of a vetting process and a lack of abstinence, a lot of it, many women may not recover from, many men may not recover from. We are in a time where there will likely be many young women and young men that will not make it out of the 20s without a life-altering STD. And there's so many new strains. Yet the music and the imagery, and I'm not religious, at this point. Actually, religion is how you're living. It's not what you're calling yourself. Vegan, vegetarian, I'm this religion. It's what you're doing consistently. That is your religion. So this is a time, and this applies to ourselves, not to go by what people say. This whole screen job here, it's gift of gab. And we open our psyches to the language. It's like a lock and key combination that sounds good to us, right? That will soothe our insecurities and our fears, get you to open up, male and female. So only we can take responsibility, for that. Who has a vested interest Greetings. Who has a vested interest in you getting clear? Who has a vested interest in you getting a clear prescription for what you need, right? In terms of mental, emotional, physical health. I could definitely say that, this is not limited to me as a chocolate person. But if I really have to look at it and assess who has a vested interest, who really cares? It's not to be confused with the victim mentality. So I figured out many years ago, you're on your own. You're on your own. And that might seem like it's a sad thing, though just in reality, when you really realize that you're on your own, you look at this young lady who recently went on a trip with her so-called friends, and she was unalived by her friends. I mean, if you just think of, and I think of as a woman, as a young woman, the desire for friends, the desire to go on a trip, and I know the desire to garden with folks and do things with folks. We're social creatures. But if you look at, and when you listen to this video being played back of a young man that was supposedly her friend, for him to say you can at least fight back, his whole tone, it makes me really look at the cattiness. We give it a pass. We think it's a sport, like it's funny, right? We think it's funny, but we're not counting on what we have allowed, the climate that we have allowed, that we will be affected by that climate. For us as women, this applies to me, but I'm saying as a woman, the things that we allow in our partners and that we allow our children to be exposed to, we're not banking on that coming long term back to us, only being concerned about the climate we create for our children. I'm not saying to be a martyr and that you can control everything, though, in not setting a climate of protection for all the children, we all get old one day. And these children who are neglected and who we are not being responsible and who we're parenting with, when they don't get what they need in terms so that they can be emotionally and mentally, as well as food, clothing, shelter, so they can be stable and so they can be not tampered with, so they can get to express themselves creatively as human beings, somebody's going to pay for that, right? I remember I had one of my homies when I was younger. I remember she was so ahead of the game. She said things I had never heard from a young woman. She said, I wouldn't have a child if I don't have this, all these things in place. And I was like, dang, she got a whole list. Who can afford that? She was crystal clear. I will never forget. She said, if I don't have these things in place, I will create a menace to society. I was like, wow, I had never heard a young woman say that, right? If you are not parenting, not having a baby, distinction, parenting, it's a stewardship, a volunteer position. You need to have something to give in order to parent. Maybe not perfectly, but so that you stack the odds, not just in your favor of having a nice experience that you get to be, stroking our own ego of being a mom or dad. I can't do this. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should, right? We're accountable. We're not really taking these next set of, we say babies, let's say these small human beings into consideration. All that they would need to be able to come to fruition, healthy and well adjusted, and being able to not only fend for themselves, but to be able to flourish. Maturity and accountability is not stylish. Abstinence, I think, is the bomb, is the move. Not popular. I don't think it's going to be encouraged because definitely, you can let me know what you think in the comments. Definitely as a young man, I think as a young person, well, a little different male and female energies on one aspect or in several aspects. Though once you start engaging that energy as a young person, if I look back, you will totally lose your focus. You lose your focus on your dance, your dreams, your goals. Something else kicks in terms of your attachment to the other person. I know people are getting esoteric with soul ties and twin flames. I'm keeping it simple over here, real practical. I think we're getting lost in the rhetoric, but we form attachments to people, and quite often we don't even have a language to articulate trauma, tools to resolve trauma of how we were parented, so we can get about the life of our trajectory and how we would like to create a life that we enjoy, because it will end at some point. We'll have to put down these human suits. So it's really, this is an opportunity. It's always been an opportunity to move away from the groupthink. We are deeply affected by groupthink. And I know it may seem simple, but when I tell you, I've called it before, mind your own business fitness. Though fitness in the realm of mental, emotional health fitness, there's some things that we have access to. And there are 3 things that I share on this channel. Start a garden, no matter how small. Male or female, you can start a garden. Why? Because it's something you have access to, even if it's your windowsill, any place where you're paying rent or mortgage, or where you're living. Maybe if you're in another space, sharing a space with family, because that's a lot of folks' position today. You can bring a really beautiful energy or a little place of peace into your home by cultivating and nurturing a plant. Maybe at least 2, something beautiful to look at and something that you can eat, like a basil or rosemary plant. It is deeply therapeutic. We're looking so far outside of ourselves. We're being so enticed for our attention to go out this way, this way. We're overstimulated. So it's like we need sleep and we need rest, but it's almost like we don't have access to sleep and rest anymore. So your garden and a regular experience of nature, you don't necessarily have to go out cottage core, traipsing into the forest. You will likely have to create an environment of rest and peace wherever you are. So starting a garden, activating or reactivating a personal movement practice, so deeply therapeutic and something you have access to. Peaceful consumption, you can put whatever label you want on it. Food, this is why I like principles over people and personalities. Food that loves you back. Food that's not depositing a lot of waste on your waistline. Food that's not clogging your arteries, not clogging your skin. And I had truckloads of acne. Food that's not clogging up your arteries. The victim narrative, although we may have been victimized, is not serving us. And it's really something for us to assess if we are in environments where we have folks stroking our egos that we are choosing, that makes us feel better. Though one of my little litmus tests, I have little litmus tests to help myself. If I'm not inspired to get into action, because that's what change is, it's usually uncomfortable and it's getting in action. This is the age of rhetoric and intellectualism. I don't find it's producing a whole lot of results. It's a lot of mental masturbation. If you're not getting into action, then you can't expect a different result. There's no way around the discomfort of doing something different, getting out of your comfort zone, out of sweating, out of getting your hands dirty. You can balance it with a little fashion. Though there's no way around it. And anyone that is selling, you can get something for nothing, I have to side eye you. I don't trust you. I do not trust anyone that is offering me solutions that is going to weaken my resolve, that's going to compromise my precious one and only brain, that's going to compromise my motor skills, that's going to put me on the whole stroll. You helped me get off cigarettes. I don't smoke, by the way. But you're going to help me get off cigarettes, but now I'm addicted to 20 other chemicals. That's the principle. So if I'm going to be on the whole stroll and I can't be independent and I got to be dependent on you, I'm looking at you sideways. If you're going to offer me something that's going to put me in an addictive state, then I'm looking at you sideways. I do realize we will share wherever we are with other people. We want company with us. I like company when I'm exercising, but we want company a lot of times when we're having fun, when we're getting high, usually for the comfortable stuff, usually for pleasure. Pleasure is being pimped out. It's a big part of life, but it's not balanced. So folks will avoid the pleasure. There's a type of pleasure, check out Olympic athletes who I love to watch, any kind of athlete. There's a whole nother kind of pleasure from challenging yourself, from getting sweaty, which is why that personal movement practice, I'm about to jump off of here to get into my personal movement practice, is one of the most powerful points of my day. And especially as a woman, you tell me, other than intellectual or whatever your religion is, where do you experience personal power? Where although your body does not change in one workout, restoring your integrity, not breaking your own heart, starting to keep your promises to yourself, you're likely going to have to get uncomfortable. There's no way around it. And we go to people, which there's no shortage of people willing to take your money because we want to be placated. We want somebody to tell us it's going to be all right by and by without doing anything, without letting old things go. We want somebody to tell us good things about our non-beneficial habits. That's delusional. That's delusional. It's delusional. The release, the physiological release you get from sweating and safely pushing yourself, through discomfort. Why do we want to tone body? This is like absolute insanity. We want a tone body. We're willing to undergo extremely dangerous procedures. And as someone that's been in health and fitness, especially in the fitness world and fitness competitors, surgeries are old, especially when it comes to breast augmentation. I've had numerous friends that were also fitness competitors that were also mothers who were at the top of their game. And so, like the muscle Barbie beauty pageants want the validation and the acknowledgement for hard work. You got to be very careful who you're looking to for validation. What about your own validation? Your movement practice is your dojo, like in martial arts or in yoga, where a lot of what you experience comes off the mat and your mentality carries over into the rest of your life. As one coach told me, because I've had many coaches over the years, I was running into a course and I was running in late. He said, no, slow down. Slow down, no rush. It's okay. And I was like, huh? He's like, I'm sure you're late in other areas of your life. Principle. I never forgot that. That right there was kind of shocking, but it helped me. So I looked and think, why am I late in other areas of my life? Likely because we are literally habitual creatures, and a lot of what we're doing, our thinking and reasoning process for everything we eat, everything we do, it's a mentality, right? Give me a little, a little opportunity to see something from a different perspective. What you choose to eat is your mentality. You give yourself an out all the time. Isn't it interesting that some of the main foods that will build the immune system are anti-parasitical, full of protein, cleanse the body, bitters and greens, yet nobody wants the bitters and greens. It's no surprise that we're full of diabetes because we want so much sweetness, because psychologically we felt that we've missed out on sweetness or we don't have sweetness in our life. So we look for a lot of alcohol, which is a whole lot of empty calories that quickly flood your bloodstream and tax your liver. Your liver, what you need to filter out all the poisons. So if we really were to sit back and think critically, it's really no wonder that we have all the dis-ease. We're waiting for somebody to stroke us and hold us like we're a baby, but on one level, we're not babies anymore. There's an inner part of us that is timeless, and a part of us that is that you like that youthful child. Yet we are enticed on one level to fantasy to not grow up. And it is imbalanced to think that we will not experience bitterness in life. So we are pumped full of a culture of over pleasure. Anyone ever hear of the opium wars? Where everybody was high and zonked out and people were dying of overdoses. Look it up, this generation. Y'all might have never heard of it. So I can discern, and this is one woman's perspective. I'm not here to knock other folks for their choices. I got plenty of folks very dear to me that are Rasta, my family, that are religious. I've come through different religions, just where I am in my life. It doesn't make sense to me to put smoke in my lungs. It doesn't make sense for me to burn out my liver. I've never seen alcohol and drugs do anything but destroy a whole community and family members. That's what I've observed with my own eyes, not through a book. I don't need thee, thou, though, he said, and Lord, my father. That's my common sense. I've seen and observed that firsthand. So I can say, I may not know all of this, but that I've seen that pattern consistently and it has produced these results. At what point do we engage our own onboard common sense? And at some point, we can't sit and intellectualize all day. Ultimately, we'll have to get into action around the things that we are say are important to us, around our core values. So that's why my litmus test. If I'm not inspired to get into action around the things I say that are important to me, then likely that's not a good use of my energy and my attention. And I just don't have it to be a battery or just to feel good or to rub my ego or to think I'm changing the world. Although a trainer and, I think I'm a pretty decent person, I like being inspired too. Sometimes I'm inspired by, no, quite often, I'm inspired by my clients. That gives me more juice. That I've had certain clients for years that, oh my gosh, they are a pleasure to work with. The standard they set for themselves to watch a human being, to hold space for the process of transformation brings tears to my eyes. It's humbling to watch somebody transform their body. I've seen the process and held space for the process, that process several times. For somebody to push through discomfort, wow, that's like watching an Olympian. It is absolutely inspiring. So I don't find myself with these shows and the fighting, the catcalling. It's not inspirational. We're allowing ourselves, we are participating in being dumbed down because you can't change the channel. It's addictive. You can change the channel. You can't change the channel. You really can. So I'm about to jump off. It's time for me to start the movement practice to release the kinks. I was put on my hat for my garden hat for fun. I tell you, I really appreciate freedom here. And again, I can appreciate hair and makeup, but freedom. So I can go sweat, roll on the floor, be in my garden, a prison of my own making that I'm submitted myself to. There's not that, life is precious. It's limited. We will take off this human suit at some point. And an important thing for me to experience is freedom, to at least not be in a cage. I want to enjoy the peace of the garden. I'm telling you, the peace of my deep rest after I really exerted myself physically, the peace of my palate being able to appreciate the natural sugars in lettuce and fresh fruit. Perhaps it's just too overly simple. But folks, I will say though, these simple lifestyle practices, leverage lifestyle practices, are something that we do have access to, whatever your financial situation or your living situation is, something that you have access to. Radical self-acceptance. If we're not accepting ourselves, even energetically, we're demanding and wanting, kind of like delusional that other people will really dote on us and really sincerely care for us, when energetically that's not how we're feeling about ourselves. And we delude ourselves to think that other folks can't pick up on it. And even if they don't, you have to live with yourself, all the time. So I kind of smile to myself that I like myself. Am I a perfect human being? No. But when I have a spontaneous smile when I walk past the mirror, and living in integrity and striving to live in integrity with my own core values, at any point when this particular life cycle, when it expires, I want to be in integrity with myself as I transition into the unknown. So I'm inviting you all to create a great day on purpose. Just because you said so, you're welcome to join me in the mornings at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Harriet Squat's workout on Body-Culinary signature workout. There is coaching, whole living, unprocessed foods, living and unprocessed foods, nutrition and fitness coaching. If you're interested in upgrading your lifestyle, we meet every Sunday at 2 p.m. So answering all of your questions, doing your check-in with your fitness trackers, some positive accountability, right? Positive accountability. Are you getting into action with what you say is important to you? Feel free to gift yourself with whole living foods in the hood with menus to fit your budget. It's not a diet. Everyone can benefit from more whole, fresh living and unprocessed foods. This has been a lifestyle for many years. I put in there all the questions that people could ask me on how you can maintain and sustain this as a lifestyle. Your body and your cells, they recognize real food, your immune system. Beyond the party in your mouth, I like delicious taste. I love delicious taste too. If you perhaps you've had a lot of acne, as I have had, please check out on bodycoloring.com. Natural beauty, no products. I put food on my face and in my hair, and I have very, very fine hair. I'm working with what I got, and that is actually it's actually very freeing. Right over here in this little corner of the universe, natural bodies matter. And we deserve, I know I deserve to feel comfortable in my own hair and skin. That's a conscious choice. So likes, not likes, it's part of it. Part of it is not real. By the way, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe if you get some benefit on this channel. Though how I feel about myself, because I live with myself, is it's the most important thing. It's the most important thing to me. And radical self-acceptance. I can't say enough about its freedom. This is the hair I have. This is the skin I have. To be in a time where I submit myself to a prison, I can't walk outside with my own skin. Nah, that's not working for me. Freedom is the bomb. Let me go get to this workout. Create a great day on purpose. You can find me Kwasa with a K, Peaceful Eating. Full like full belly on TikTok. Body-Culinary here on YouTube. Some of the food that we're eating. You can see some of the things we're doing in the garden with food on Instagram. I'll see y'all soon.